What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me here on this webinar. Welcome. And today we're going to be talking about motocross weight training and how you can improve motocross fitness with phased training. So make sure you got something to take some notes because we're going to get right into today's webinar. And today we're going to be talking about why to use dumbbells and not machines, how to use a barbell to gain strength, and soft tissue work to recover from your workouts. That's probably the most overlooked aspect of training is the soft tissue work and recovery. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction on who I am, and then we're going to get right into today's topic. So brief history about me. I am prior Air Force, did 6 years in the military, and that is the time that I took up motocross as not just as a hobby, but as a racer. That's when I started racing in Florida, which was extremely fun, besides growing up and just riding dirt bikes in the desert in El Paso, Texas. So I loved riding dirt bikes, and then once I got onto the track, and that was such a rush to start racing, and I've wanted to get back into it. It's been 10 years since I've raced, so I want to get back into it, just recreational and not trying to become a professional. But anyway, moving on. So after the Air Force, I got out of the military and joined a band. I was a drummer for the next 5 years and toured most of the country. And eventually we got on to Warped Tour, and that was awesome. That experience by itself was totally worth the 5 years of playing music. It was so awesome. But there was an issue, I guess my issue was having 6 business owners. We had 6 people in the band, and we all were owners of the business. There was too many chefs, not enough cooks, or whatever that saying is. There was too many people in charge, and it just got to the point where living in a van wasn't fun anymore with 6 dudes. It was like, okay, something's got to change. And I knew I wanted to own my own business, but I didn't know what. So my way out of that was getting into massage therapy. I hated doing the relaxation stuff. I enjoyed the rehab, the sports side of it. So once I realized I needed fitness along with that, that's when I became a massage therapist and personal trainer. So I'm a business owner now, fast forwarding. I'm a business owner, and now I have an online motocross fitness coaching business, which is what Twin Halos is all about. And this is me right here. My name is RJ. I'm a massage therapist and personal trainer, and I help improve motocross athletes' fitness levels. That's my purpose, and that's what I love doing because I love motocross so much. So prior to my current training, I did all the bodybuilder style routines. I did all of that type of training. I took all the supplements that I could get my hands on, trying to gain size, trying to improve my look more than performance. And then by doing that, I eventually injured myself, and I tore my rotator cuff muscle. So if you don't know this muscle name, that's okay. It's the supraspinatus, if you want to look that up. You don't have to write this down, just know that's the rotator cuff muscle that I tore. Usually that's what people tear when they have shoulder impingement. But my issue, I guess what created this issue, was the overuse of bench press and bicep curls. When you overdo these 2 exercises, it starts to bring your shoulders forward. So as a drummer, that didn't help. I was trying to improve the muscles that are in the mirror. And unfortunately, that didn't help out too good because I had poor posture as a drummer. My hands are crossed as I'm drumming, which is a comfortable position as I'm drumming, which is necessary for my style. And eventually, it just became this really bad poor posture that I had adapted for years and years and years, and it was not good. So then I threw writing on top of that whenever I could. So it's constantly beating up my body and never focusing on recovery or stretching, and that's what eventually led to this rotator cuff tear. It was unfortunate because it could have been avoided should I have started to focus on stretching. I know better now. So when I say posture is like, I don't really know what that is. Some people are like, you can't sell posture. I don't care about that. I just want to inform people on why it's important, and I'm not trying to sell you on why posture, why you need to take care of it. it's a necessity. I don't feel that it's something that I need to sell. It's a necessity. It's something that you have to do, especially with motocross. If you want to do this long term and not just short term lived, you've got to take care of your body and maintain it. So with posture, that's why I have this slide here. Is posture just hype? Well, how heavy is your head? If you look at the guy on the left, that's normal posture. The ears on top of the shoulder, that's good posture. So the average human head is about 12 pounds. So for every inch that the head moves forward on the shoulders, your head is going to increase by 10 pounds every inch. So that means if your head moves forward 3 inches, you have a 42-pound head. That's a lot of pressure being put on the base of the neck and the upper back. This is a lot of people's postures these days because of the computer. We sit a lot, and I'm not saying that the computer is bad. It's the fact that we don't do anything to alleviate this type of posture. So with bench press and curls, this pulled my body forward into this position, weakening my back muscles. So if I was to do anything and give anybody some advice, work your back out more than anything, your back and your legs. So here is the section of the spine. I'm showing you this because when I refer to these certain medical terms, I want you to understand what I'm saying. I don't want to talk over your head. So cervical curve, the cervical spine is the first 7 vertebrae. The vertebrae meaning the bones in the spine. Then following that is the thoracic spine. That's where all the ribs articulate with the vertebrae. Then below that is the lumbar spine. That's your low back. So these are the 3 sections in the spine, and I'm going to refer to a few of them coming up. So the first one that we're going to refer to is the cervical spine. So what I'm showing you here is the nuchal ligament. The reason why I'm showing you this is because as a rider, you put on your helmet and then you're leaning forward in the attack position when you're standing up, going to the next obstacle, whether that's a turn, jump, whatever it is. But if we train the biceps, we train the chest so much, the head starts to come forward and puts a lot of stress on this ligament, the nuchal ligament. This is what's holding your head up as you go running, so your body doesn't have to think about it. It doesn't have to think about the muscle contractions on holding your neck up. This is a huge ligament in the body. And the issue that's created with this forward head posture is right there where it says C7 and T1. That's the junction where the cervical spine and the thoracic spine come together. So what I want to show you is some of your elders, whether that's an aunt, uncle, whatever it is, you might see this. You might see this bump right here on their back. This is called a dowager's hump. This is what I want to avoid, especially as a rider. If you stop riding, you stop working out, I want you to avoid this, let's say, in this issue. I don't know what I'm looking for a word, but I cannot find it. So anyway, this is why I'm all about preventative maintenance and taking care of your body. That way it doesn't deteriorate and you become, or you start to develop these type of issues, the dowager's hump, especially because we wear a helmet. This can expedite this. You want to strengthen your back a lot. So with my torn rotator cuff, was I able to recover? Absolutely. So there's my before and after. I lost a lot of weight. I couldn't work out and I couldn't figure out how to do anything to avoid this, not just the surgery, but to avoid pain. It hurt lifting my arm up over shoulder height, and it was just excruciating. So I stopped using weight machines. I stopped training in isolation. I stopped doing that type of workout. I stopped using those machines because they did not help. So I started using dumbbells and barbells a lot more often, and that was my main 2 things that I started using. And the most important thing was the soft tissue work, recovery, and stretching. So what I did, I put a lacrosse ball into my chest over and over and over, trying to alleviate the tension. I would stretch constantly, and that eventually started to take away my pain, and now I'm completely pain-free, and I never had surgery. So the body does not work in isolation. So if you work in isolation, the body doesn't understand movements as just an isolated movement. The body works, especially in sports, the body does not focus on leg extensions like I have right there. It doesn't focus on that. It focuses on movement patterns. So the way it does that is, if you want to read up more on anatomy, There's a really good book called Anatomy Trains by Tom Myers. His book, in that book, he shows how muscles actually attach to each other, and they're not just muscles that cross over a joint and they're just attached from this bone to that bone. They're actually connected and they work in unison. So that's why after reading that book, I don't train in isolation. There is very few times where I'm going to need it, but I don't focus my work solely on isolation. Now with these, like I talk about motor patterns, thinking about where these machines are, they're also in rehab facilities when you have to regress an exercise, meaning that you have to make it easier for the person to start from and then build up to that. So once I started realizing where these machines were, I stopped using them. I was like, you know what, there's a better way, and that's when I started using dumbbells and barbells. So this bale of hay is to show why, or to give you an example of why my style of training did not work and it didn't transfer into real life. So if you're standing there, standing straight up, and you have a duffel bag to your right, and you're trying to pick that up and put it on the table to your left, that's essentially what I was trying to do with this bale of hay. I came home from the military and my dad was growing alfalfa. He had it baled, and just when I came home, it was time to load it up in the trailer. But as I went to go pick up that bale of hay, I grabbed those two wires and I was going to toss it over onto the trailer. As I went to pick it up, I could not pick it up with the ease that I thought I would be able to. I could squat, deadlift, bench press, I do all that stuff, but I did not understand what a strong core meant. I had a six-pack, but that didn't mean that I was strong at all. It didn't matter. So as I go to pick it up, my body's shaking like, what the hell is going on? The issue is that I didn't have any core involvement when I worked out with machines. So sitting down with leg extensions, that takes the core completely out, and it doesn't train the body as a whole. That's why I'm so against that type of training. So that's just an example of when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even pick up this bale of hay. And it's only 80 pounds. It wasn't that heavy, or shouldn't have been that heavy with as much training as I was doing. So my point in saying that is because core strength dictates upper and lower body strength. So the core not only strengthens, or the core actually transfers power to and from the upper and lower body. It's a huge component that it's necessary, especially for motocross and pain management. So not only do you just need core strength, but you need rotational strength and anti-rotational strength, especially when you're on the track and you're going over braking bumps or acceleration bumps. You're going to be tossed around a little bit. You've got to be strong in order to stay on the bike. Then with low back strength, your low back is involved with the core. So when I say core, I mean that entire midsection. It's not just your abs. It's everything that's underneath your abs as well as your low back. This is also going to create such a strong core. It's going to decrease a lot of pain because there's so many people that have back issues. Having a strong core is one of the things that's going to eliminate that. That's kind of like your internal weightlifter belt. That's what you want to strengthen. So moving on from the core, one move or one motion that we lose because we're constantly doing something in front of us, especially with motocross, we lose this motion right here called shoulder extension, where we're just standing there and move our hands back behind us. That's called shoulder extension. So an exercise to actually strengthen our back, our low back, before getting into any kind of deadlift or squat, I have to strengthen people's backsides way more before I get them into any barbell movements, before we start moving into strength training. The exercise that I do is right here. It's a straight arm kickback. So you're bent in this position, which your hamstrings and your glutes, the hamstrings being the back of your legs, your glutes being your butt, that's going to hold the body there. Now the low back is engaged, your abs are engaged as you go from the starting position on the left, and then you go into the finished position on the right. Your abs are going to be engaged. That way your body doesn't fall forward. So the reason I like this, I'm going to show you an example. Here is a single arm dumbbell row on the left, and then here's the straight arm kickback. If you look at the upper arm, which is from the shoulder to the elbow, they're both in the same place. So if you've ever tried to take a lug nut off of a car, you're not going to do it with a small wrench or a small ratchet. You're going to need a long ratchet or a long tool in order to break that free. So what that means is you're increasing what's called the lever arm. You're increasing the distance from your shoulder to your hand. Now you're able to do, just like that single arm row on the left, I'm able to do that same exercise with less weight and affect more muscles in the body. So the straight arm kickback, the upper arm stays the same. I just made it more difficult by straightening out my arms and lengthening the distance between the shoulder and the hand. So this is a really good exercise that I start people with because I have to strengthen the backside of their shoulders, the mid back, their low back, the glutes, and hamstrings. And this is one exercise that enables me to do all of that in one. So I try to be very time efficient with my workouts. That's why I like this exercise. The next one, before getting into big strength training moves, is the dumbbell front squat. So just holding the dumbbells in that position is going to start creating shoulder stability. This is what's called an isometric move. All you're doing is holding it there. No muscle is lengthening or shortening. It's just staying right there. So you're going to start to create shoulder stability. So not only just holding those dumbbells the way they are, the way I showed you, the core is also engaged because now you're holding the weights in front of you and the body wants to bend forward. Now you may think that your low back is going to be engaged first. That's actually false. Your core starts to be engaged before your low back. It's your core and then your low back starts to fire. Because your core has to brace and hold the ribs, that way the ribs don't collapse down. So your core has to start contracting first to brace the low back, and then the low back engages, creating this strong core all the way around. Then as you come down into the workout, because now we need to work the legs, now we get down into that exercise, you need thoracic extension. So if you remember where it says cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, the mid portion of the spine where all the ribs attach, you need that extension, meaning that you're going to try and open up your chest and extend the spine back slightly backwards when getting into this exercise. It's meant to, the reason why you want the thoracic extension is so that you keep good form throughout the exercise. This is really good because this strengthens your back, strengthens the shoulder, and as well as your legs. This is going to help, especially when you're in that attack position, going to the next obstacle on the track. So those two exercises are key when adding dumbbells to your workouts. So that's my reason for free weights. Free weights build strength that's going to transfer into real life and into whatever sport you may be, even if that's outside of motocross. Machines, like I mentioned before, they take your core out of the equation, and that is why I use free weights over machines. So now that's the first phase. So now we're getting into the second phase of how I would program. So now we get into barbell strength. This is learning how to carry heavier weight close to the body, such as a deadlift, such as a squat. This is good carryover into real life and sports. They're still around because they're still effective, especially when they are done properly. So when starting strength, how I learned about strength training was from a guy named Mark Ripito. He has a book called Practical Programming for Strength Training. Now, a lot of his programs, they were geared towards football and explosive athletes. So in motocross, we don't necessarily need that type of strength, but I've taken some of those principles from his book and implemented them into motocross and how I can transfer that into a motocross athlete. So some of his programs are 12, maybe 16 weeks long, but for motocross, we don't need to be doing strength training for that long. This is only a phase of training, 4 to 6 weeks, we're in and out. We got to get out of that and start training something else, or train the body's adaptation to something else. So with strength training, you want to use compound moves, meaning that you're going to use more than just one single joint. This is not isolation. This is big, big moves. This is going to be, for example, the squat, the deadlift, the shoulder press, even chin-ups. I know the chin-ups don't use a barbell, but these are big movements that you're using your full body in order to complete these exercises. So with strength training, you want to incorporate the entire body. And also with strength training, you want low reps. You want to increase the number on the bar. You want to increase the weight that's on the bar. That's the purpose behind it. So with lower repetitions, that is going to increase your neurological strength. What I mean by that is what's going to happen is you're asking your nervous system to fire every single muscle fiber that's available in order to move this weight. The purpose behind that is to send an anabolic signal to get muscles to grow. Now, there's a disclaimer right there. This does not mean you're going to get huge. This is not just for ladies, but also for guys. This doesn't mean that you're going to get massive slabs of muscle put on when you're going through this phase of training. So don't be scared to get under the bar and start pressing some heavier weight. Heavier meaning whatever relative to your body. Don't think that you got to squat 500 pounds. That doesn't mean, that's not what I'm trying to get at. Anything 5 reps or lower, that's all you need to do. So with strength training, the sets don't last very long, which is a good thing because this is a pretty hard phase of training. That's why we're in and out and we got to get back on the bike and train a different way so we can change the adaptation that we're targeting. So in order for us to prevent injury, we have to, especially with strength training, every rep has to have good form. This even outside of strength training, no matter what you're doing, every rep has to have good form. One thing with strength training that you're not going to experience is the pump. So some people might overtrain because they don't feel this pump. So if you take a bicep, for example, or bicep curl, as you're curling 20, 30 reps and you do this 3 to 4 sets, you're going to feel like your biceps are going to pop out of your skin. With strength training, you're not going to feel like that. You may feel tired, but you don't feel your muscles have this pump. That's okay. Don't continue trying to feel that pump. Don't chase the pump. Like they say in bodybuilding, you're chasing the pump. That's not the primary goal of this phase of training. So make sure you get the form first before adding weight, let me say that again. Get the form first before adding weight you can't handle. Make sure you understand the motor pattern before you start adding weight. That's the entire purpose behind getting the form first. You don't want to do something. You want to develop a good habit prior to adding more weight to the bar. So prevent injury as much as possible. Another thing that you want is to recover from these workouts. The nervous system is taxed hugely in strength training. So you might feel tired. You might feel exhausted the next day, but just recover. Don't feel like you got to go into the gym and that you're missing out on something. You've got to recover from these workouts. Rest is going to be your best friend. So whether that's light exercise or just, anything to get the blood flowing, you start working on flexibility, you start doing stretching, anything. Do something like this that's light so you can recover from your workouts. Don't go full on into the gym and start working your butt off again, because you're only going to stack up recovery times over and over again, and then you're going to end up overtraining. You're never going to recover, and then this is where you're going to either plateau and not improve. That's a lot of issues because people think that I need to overtrain over and over and over. It's not good. So recovery is huge. This is why you need to rest. You need to stretch. You need to even use weighted mobility, because you don't want to just create flexibility without strength. You want to have both. You want to create mobility in the body. So sometimes you might even need some soft tissue work with a foam roller and a lacrosse ball. These are the two tools that I always go to because they're the easiest, the most available, and they don't take up a lot of space in your bag. So that's why I use those two tools in order to do soft tissue work to get what I need done when I'm doing soft tissue, when I'm doing basically self-massage. So that's what I use when I'm not getting a massage from any other massage therapist. And if you are going to get a massage from a massage therapist, make sure that they either weight train, they lift, or they're competent in rehab and sports style massage. If they start to induce pain and they're making you tear up and they think, yeah, this is the way to go, they are a dumb massage therapist. I've worked with hundreds of massage therapists, and this across the board, they all think that pain is going to get them somewhere. And unfortunately that's not going to happen. So with controversy with stretching, should I do it before or after a workout? Well, the better question is, what is your purpose? When stretching before, you can use this to work in deeper ranges of motion to increase strength and posture in these longer ranges of motion. That's one good thing. But if you're going to stretch before, do not lift heavy. If you're going to stretch like that and hold it for long periods of time, up to 30 to 60 seconds, don't go heavy. Work in these deeper ranges of motion with light weight. Even sometimes you might even need body weight only when stretching before. So if you're stretching afterwards, you just typically want to induce the relaxation response to the muscles. You just want to stretch enough to remind the body, hey, we're not under attack, nothing's happening. Now it's time to cool down and relax. And then one thing that you want to do, or that you can add, is a quick warm up to get the blood flow with compressive forces. So if you're going into a stretch, you hold the stretch maybe 10 seconds, or you go in and out of a stretch, kind of pulsing back and forth in a stretch. With compressive forces, you can also use a foam roller. Don't hang out a long time, like if you're trying to correct certain issues with the foam roller. What you're going to do if you're using a foam roller to warm up, you're just going to move over the muscles quickly. The reason, so think of, let's use an example of a puddle, and as a bike or a tire goes through that puddle, the puddle splits. And then as the water, gravity comes back in, and the water comes back into that puddle to rehydrate the puddle, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's exactly what's happening with your muscles. As the foam roller goes over a certain muscle, the blood's going to get pushed away, and then right after that, with those compressive forces, is the opposite. Now it's decompressed, and now there's more blood flow to that area. So that's why you want to do it quick. You just want to get the blood moving quick. So that's my 2 cents on how to stretch before or after. You've got to understand what your purpose is when you do that. So I know this was pretty quick and that was a lot of information. Let's go over a small recap. That way you can try and reignite your brain in some of these things. So number one is to stop using machines. The body does not work in isolation. Start using free weights. That's going to have better carryover into real life and into sports. And recover. I cannot stress that enough. You've got to stretch. You've got to do something in order to recover. And also that helps with pain management. If you're experiencing any kind of pain, stretch, move, anything. Use body weight movements, use animal movements, something to help your body recover. Now, with all this information, you may be wondering, is there a program that has all of this within it? And my answer for that is yes, there is. I've developed a program called Iron Foundation. Iron meaning that we're going to use weights to develop a good foundation for me to give you so we can build upon it. Using strength training, using some of the exercises that I showed you, and also going into 3 separate phases of training. So with these 3 phases of training, we're going to start with hypertrophy and conditioning. Conditioning the muscles and the soft tissue. That way, when we get into strength training, your body is prepped and you're not going to tear a muscle, you're not going to tear a tendon, you're not going to have any issues. That's why we get into that first. Some clients may say, oh, I don't feel like I'm working out enough or not hard enough. So one thing that you have to understand is that soft tissue takes twice as long as muscle to regenerate. What that means is that, so think of stretching. That's why stretching takes a lot longer to become more flexible rather than just building muscle, because it takes twice as long as that certain tissue to regenerate. So that's why certain clients have to understand why hypertrophy and conditioning, hypertrophy meaning muscle building, this has to be done first in order to get every soft tissue stronger prior to getting into strength training. Then the second phase that we get into is the barbell strength training. We start to develop a strong body. Here we want to increase the numbers on the bar. That's it. So you'll pick 3 big compound movements and that's your workout. That's it. You're not going to do a lot, again, because we're taxing the nervous system, not just the muscles. We're trying to get that nervous system to fire and engage every muscle fiber throughout the entire training. Then once we move on to that, now we have to start building endurance. Now we're going to build strength endurance. Your reps are going to go up. You're going to start to build up a lot of lactic acid. Now we've got to get the body prepped to endure all of this lactic acid. How well is it going to handle once we get into these higher rep ranges? This is the purpose, or one of the purposes behind this, is to develop strength endurance and not just cardio endurance. Because with motocross riding, you're carrying around, or you're riding a 200+ pound bike. So you've got to have strength endurance as well as cardio endurance. So this is going to help both of those. Throughout the entire program, there's also a flexibility protocol along with soft tissue work in order for you to recover and show you how to actually take care of your body. So Iron Foundation has all of this within it. And I constantly get asked, is this sport specific to motocross? My answer to that is no. It's more specific to a human being as a well-rounded athlete and not just motocross. Because anybody that does motocross, I want you to not only be strong on the bike, but I want you to be strong in any other extracurricular activity that you do. If you go to play baseball, you go fish, I don't want you to cast out your fishing pole or throw a baseball and you throw out your shoulder because you were training so sport specific that your program kind of forgot that we're training a human. So that's my way of thinking, is I want to train a well-rounded athlete in order to perform in everything that they're going to do. This doesn't mean that I'm going to train you half-assed into motocross. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get you fully trained up as a full, well-rounded athlete. So how does this program work? Well, the way it works is once you purchase a program, you're going to be granted weekly access to the entire program. So what that means is over time, you're going to be dripped the entire program. And at the end of the program, you'll have access to the entire thing. The reason why I did that is so that you don't jump ahead and you stay on track. That was one of my issues with certain clients. They would jump into the sexy stuff. They wanted to start getting strong quick. And what I saw was they were starting to get injured, which I did not want. So I found a way that I could actually start dripping this content out without giving them the entire program so they could just run wild and do whatever they want. So that's why it's programmed that way. This program is nothing to download. You simply log in to my website and you're going to have access to this program. Within the program, every video, there's going to be a tutorial, or there's going to be a video tutorial for each exercise, each stretch, and each soft tissue technique. Everything, I'm basically coaching you through the entire program through video. And any updates that I have to this program, you're going to have access to. This program's already had 2 different updates, and everybody has gotten those updates for free. So if you're wondering how much is this program honestly right now, it should cost over $100, but today I'm selling it for $67. So this is 3 months worth of phased training that's going to start improving your motocross fitness. Now, if you're worried like, oh, what if I don't like it? Well, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can use the program for 30 days. If you don't like it, you think, well, this is kind of not my thing, that's fine. There's money-back guarantee for a reason, because if you don't like it, I don't want to charge you for it. If you do enjoy it, then that's what I want to give you. So I want you to try this risk-free. So if you have any questions, you're going to contact me here at this email, twinhalos@gmail.com. So if you want to get that program, head up to the shop tab that you see above this video and go down until you see Iron Foundation. That's where you're going to find that program. So I hope you found this webinar informative. Hope you took some notes. Please let me know if you have any questions, you want to know more about the program. Let me know. Just email me, twinhalos@gmail.com. So thank you so much for everybody joining me here on this webinar. I look forward to progressing your motocross fitness. Again, let me know if you have any questions, anything that you want to ask me about, whether it's the programming or anything that has to deal with fitness for your motocross career or for your just recreational motocross fitness. That's it for me. I'm RJ with Twin Halos, and thank you guys for joining me here.